Hello everyone. Once again, a warm welcome from our end to this Zoho Creator Tech Connect series for the month of webinar. So now let's get started with the topic that we have planned for this webinar. So let me give you a short introduction to what this Tech Connect series is, so that for the people who have joined the session newly, you will have an idea of what this webinar is, right? So Zoho Creator Tech Connect webinar is a month-on-month free session that we handle. So for every month, we will be selecting a technical topic or a technical nuance from the Creator platform, and we will be discussing about the same with live demonstration based on real-time use cases as well, right? So based on that note, for this month, that is for the month of June, we are running a data relationship series which started in the month of May. So for the month of May, we discussed about a topic called how you can build data relationship using lookup field in Zoho Creator, right? So as a continuation for this month, that is for the month of June, the topic that we have taken is how you can build data relationship using subforms in Zoho Creator, right? So we'll be learning about what is a subform, what are all the different types of relationship that you can build. So all this will be covered with a live demonstration. This is me, Dorothy R, and I'll be the trainer for this specific webinar. Before we get started with this session, there are a few housekeeping rules that I would like to highlight. So all the attendees who have joined this session will be kept on mute throughout the session. If you have any questions or queries regarding the topic that we are handling, you can always post your questions in the question tab, and our co-trainers will be answering all your questions simultaneously, right? And regarding the recording of the session, we will be sharing the recordings with all the participants once it is processed from our end, so you need not worry about the same. And in between the session or at the end of the session, if there are any polls or surveys initiated from our end, we kindly request the participants to actively participate in all of them, right? So with this housekeeping rules in mind, let me just quickly turn my video off so that you can view the entire session in a full screen. So let's get started with the agenda or the topics that we have planned for this specific webinar. We'll be starting off this webinar with a recap of the topic that we discussed in the previous webinar on the month of May, right? So that you will have an understanding of how the data relationship series started and what is the topic that we have taken in hand as well. Post which we'll have an introduction to what is Subform in Zoho Creator, the different types of subform that we have within the platform, and how you can configure or create these subforms within your application will also be given to you. We'll also be learning about how you can use the Deluge scripting language to bring in automation inside your application based on a subform that you have created. So for all these topics, we will be providing you with a live demonstration based on a use case that we have taken in hand, right? So with this agenda in mind, let's move on to the recap of the previous webinar. For the month of May, for the Zoho Creator Tech Connect series, the topic that we took is building data relationship using lookup. So initially, we started off with an introduction to what is data relationship, the different types of data relationship that we have, where we discussed about one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, followed by many-to-many relationship as well. So post which we understood what is the creator field that is going to help you to create data relationship, where we delve deep into the lookup field in Zoho Creator. We learnt about the different types of lookup that you can create, which is a unidirectional lookup, bidirectional lookup, and a self lookup. And we also learnt about a developer tool called Schema Builder that is going to help you to view the different data relationship that you have built within your application, right? So if you'd like to get an access to a recording of this specific webinar, my co-trainer will be sharing you a course link for the Zoho Creator Tech Connect series, where just by signing into the course, you can access all the previous recordings of the webinar, right? So now, for this month topic, that is how you can build data relationship using Subform, let's move on to having a short introduction to what are Subform in Zoho Creator and how you can use the Subform field in order to bring in data relationship, right? So within your Zoho Creator platform, in order to build a form, you have field palettes, right? So where you have 4 different categories, which is your basic fields, your advanced fields, followed by your special and AI fields as well, right? In your advanced field category, you have 2 different fields, which is subform and lookup. So these 2 fields are going to help you to bring in data relationship within your application, and based on the data relationship, you can also bring in automation within your application as well, right? For this specific webinar, we will be concentrating more on the subform field in Zoho Creator. So subforms are nothing but, so these are basically used to create a form within a existing form that you already have within your application, right? So this will be called as my main form, where I have fields such as name, email, phone, just to collect the customer details. Within a main form, I can create a subform. So for instance, if a customer wants to register for an event, get tickets for the same, and pay a specific amount, they can make use of this subform respectively, right? So the main advantage of creating a subform is going to be, you will be able to capture multiple related records within a main form itself. That is, one single customer can register for multiple events, and multiple event related details can be captured within this subform, right? So by creating a subform, you will be building a parent-child, or also called as a master detail relationship between your main form and your subform, right? So let's look at even more better understanding of what a subform is. So as in the name suggests, it is a form that is created within an existing form that you have within your application, right? So once your subform is added, you can go ahead and build your parent-child relationship. You can go ahead and configure what are all the fields that needs to be displayed within your subform, the field types that you want to opt for. So all this can be created within any subform that you have built within your application, right? So once your fields are added, so if you want to bring in any automation based on the subform that you have within your application, that can also be achieved using your Deluge scripting language. Automations as in starting with simple mathematical calculations, or if you want to perform validations based on a input that you're giving into your subform, all these automations are possible using your Deluge scripting language, right? So now that you have an idea of what a subform is, let's understand the different types of subform that we have within the Creator platform. So we have 2 different types. The first one is your blank subform, followed by an existing subform. Let's understand the difference between these two. Blank subform as in, so within your main form, you will be creating a subform. If you're choosing it to be a blank subform, then you have to create the subform from scratch. So the entire field, the field type, everything will be configured from scratch, right? Whereas in the other hand, existing subform as in, let's consider you have 2 different forms, which is form A and form B, right? So if you just want to bring in form B as a subform into form A, then you will be opting for existing subform. So you will not be creating anything from scratch over here. You will just bring in an existing form as a subform into the main form, right? So this is the major difference between a blank subform and an existing subform. Followed by the data that you are storing in a blank subform will only be available within the parent form, right? Because you are going to create this subform from scratch within the main form. So any data that you are storing within a blank subform will only be available in the parent form. On the other hand, since you are bringing in an existing form into form A, so here data is stored both in the parent form and the child form, right? So this is another major difference. Also, the parent-child relationship is inbuilt when you are opting for blank subform. However, for an existing subform, you are going to choose what is the form that you want to bring in as an existing subform. So here, the parent-child relationship is established manually, right? So these are the major difference between what a blank subform is and what an existing subform is. So how you can bring in both the types of subform into your Creator application. So how you can create a subform. For which, let me take you to a quick live demonstration on the same. So this is my Creator platform, where for this specific webinar, we will be choosing an application called Event Management. Let me open the same. So let's consider I'm running an organization where I'm hosting events to the customers, right? So let me take you to the different modules that I have within my application. The first module that I have is the events form, right? So if I'm going to decide that a specific event is going to be hosted or published to the customers, in order to make the customer register for an event, this is the form that I'll be using in order to enroll a specific event, right? In the all events report, you can see the different categories of event that we are handling within the organization, followed by the event names, the cost per ticket, and who's the person in charge of this specific event is tagged as well, right? So whenever I add a new event, it can be viewed in this specific report, and whenever a new record is created, something called a record ID is generated. So in the previous webinar, we have discussed in detail about what this record ID is and how it helps to fetch data from one module and display it in another using lookup field. So this is the record ID that we will be using in order to fetch a data from one module and display it in another using lookup field, right? So this is about the events module. So for a customer to register for all these events, I do have a form called the registration form, where all the customer needs to do is they have to enter their details such as name, email and phone number, choose a specific event category, for instance art, and they can opt for an event. Do they want to attend the art and craft exhibition, or do they want to choose a recycling webinar? So all these events can be chosen. The cost per ticket can be auto-populated using your Deluge scripting language. Once the required number of tickets is placed, they can go ahead and submit this specific request for an event, right? So now, with using this registration form, I'll be able to choose multiple event categories, right? Because I have used a multi-select field in the backend of the application. However, here, for art, I can choose a specific event. If a customer wants to register for another event, if this field is a multi-select field, they can go ahead and register for another event as well, right? However, if you want to capture multiple event details, such as if one single customer is registering for multiple events, and if you'd like to capture the event details as within the main form itself, event details as in the name of the event, the cost per ticket for each event that is chosen by the customer, the required number of tickets for each event that is chosen by the customer. So all these event details can be captured as a subform, right? So this will create a relationship between one single record, and it can be related with multiple records that are chosen by the customer, right? So this creates a parent-child relationship which can be achieved using Subform in Zoho Creator. So in order to capture these details as a subform, let me move on to the edit mode of the application. So currently we are in the design tab. So let me open the form builder. So the details that I want to capture within my subform is the event name, cost per ticket and the required number of tickets, right? So let me quickly delete this because I'll be capturing them within my subform. Great. So now this is the basic field category. In your advanced field category, you have your subform and lookup fields to bring in data relationship into your application. Let me drag and drop the subform. So it will ask me, do you want to create a blank subform or is it an existing subform? So first, initially we'll understand how a blank subform can be created, post which we'll move on to existing subform concept, right? So let me choose blank subform and click on done. So a blank or empty subform is added within my main form, which is called as the registration form, right? So this subform name can be modified, or the display name can be edited using field properties in Zoho Creator. So we'll come back to this field properties. As of now, within this blank or empty subform, if you would like to add fields into it, here you have an option for the same called add field, right? So once you click onto it, you will be able to choose from a list of fields provided to you. You can choose what is the field type that you want, what is the field name or property that you want to assign with. All this can be customized. So the three things that I'm going to capture within my blank subform is the event name, the cost per ticket and the required number of ticket. So the event name is originally stored within my events form. So here I have the event name, right? So I'm going to use the concept of a lookup field in order to fetch the event name from this module, and we are going to display it within my registration form, right? So let me search for a lookup field. So from the events form, I'm going to get the event name and it's added over here. So let me rename it to be event name, right? Followed by which, let me choose a currency field to display the cost per ticket. So let this be named as cost per ticket. Also, let me use a number field to capture the required number of tickets, right? So let this be So these are the details that I want to capture within my subform. So this is one way of creating a subform, which is your blank subform. So whenever you drag and drop a subform into your application, towards your right hand side, you can see the field properties for the same. So this subform name can be edited, the field link name can be updated. For instance, let me update this to be blank subform. You can see the field link name is getting automatically updated, right? So whenever I want to access the data that I have stored within the specific subform, this is the field link name that I'll be using within my workflows, right? So if I want to make this subform a mandatory field, that is only when details are entered within a subform, a customer will be allowed to submit this specific registration form, right? So you can make it mandatory, or you can also decide whether you want to show this specific subform to everyone or just the admin only can be configured. Post which you have something called view type, right? So currently this subform is displayed in a grid view. Let me show you how that looks like. So in the live mode of the application, this is the grid view of a subform. So once you click on add new button, you will be provided with rows where a customer can choose an event. The cost per ticket can be auto-populated. Let's keep it as 100 rupees for instance. The required number of tickets. So if the same customer wants to register for another event, and if you'd like to capture the event details for that as well, the customer can choose the event, the cost, the required number of tickets. So all this can be added as rows, and this is how your grid view looks like, right? There's another view, which is your list view. Let me show you what a list view is, and post we'll understand why do we have one as well, right? Let me refresh. So we have converted this into a list view. Now if you click the add new button, the subform fields such as event name, cost per ticket and required number of tickets will be given to you as a list. So the purpose of having this list view is going to be, so currently within my subform, I just have 3 fields, right? So what if I have 10 different fields? So if I have 10 different fields, I have to horizontally navigate within the subform in order to enter the respective details, right? So instead of that, you can opt for a list view where all your fields will be given as a list. You can enter the details, and once you click on save, your details will be added as a row, right? So if you'd like to edit or delete the details that you have within a subform row, that can be achieved as well, right? So these are the 2 different view types that we have, which you can configure based on your requirement. Post which we have the sorting option. So you can sort the data that you have within your subform based on a field, or you can bring in custom sorting as well. And you can adjust the field width. So do you want to adjust the field width automatically based on the type of field, or do you want to adjust the field width manually based on the pixel that you're giving can be configured, right? And the display type, such as you can set default entries for your subform. Let me show you how this works. So currently, whenever I load the registration form, no rows are automatically added, right? So if you give a default entry to be 2, automatically whenever the registration form is loaded, 2 different rows will be added into your subform by default, because that is the configuration that we have given. Also, you can limit maximum number of entries. Let me give it as 2. Let me refresh. So the maximum number of rows that I can add within a subform will be 2. If I opt for a third row, an error message or an alert message will be thrown to me. This is about set default entries and limit maximum entries, post which you have an option to give visual assistance to the customer. You can provide a tooltip or help text as well. Tooltip as in, for instance, let me give a quick tooltip. So let this be, choose your preferred events, right? So I've just given this as a tooltip. Let's move on to the live mode. So every time when I hover upon the blank or any subform that I have within my application, the tooltip will be given to me. Or you can provide it as a description or a help text as well, right? So this is about the field properties for any subform that you are creating or building within the form builder, right? And this is one type of subform that we have discussed, which is a blank subform. You can also create another type of subform, which is nothing but existing subforms in Zoho Creator. So existing subforms are, you will not be creating these subform fields from scratch. Rather, so here within my application, other than the registration form, I have two different forms, which is events and preferred events. Let me show you what this preferred events is. So here preferred events is nothing but this is a separate form that I have created in order to capture the event name, cost per ticket, number of tickets, and also I have used a formula field to capture the subtotal, right? So let me show you how this subtotal field is configured. Then we'll come back to adding the existing form. Let me take you to the preferred events. So this is the formula field that I was talking about. Using a simple mathematical calculation, I've just multiplied the cost per ticket with the number of tickets that is given as an input, right? So multiplication of these two fields will give me my subtotal, right? So this is the preferred events form that I am going to take as a subform within my registration form, right? So since preferred events is an existing form that I have within the application, I will be choosing for, under existing forms, I'll be choosing preferred events, right? Let me click on done. So the same field properties for your existing form will be given to you. You can configure based on your requirement, right? So let me just name this subform to be preferred events, and the respective field link name is also updated, right? So let's just see how this looks like in the live mode of the application. So you can see this is the blank subform that we created, and this is the preferred event subform that we created, where if you just click on add new, you will be able to view all the fields that you have within this preferred event subform, right? So a customer can choose an event, the cost per ticket. So if I just give it as 2000, based on the number of tickets that I'm giving as an input, these two values will be multiplied, and you can see the subtotal is given to you, right? So this is how a blank subform and an existing subform can be created using your subform field, right? So once all the required subforms are brought into your application, you can bring in automation based on the subform using your Deluge scripting language. So few automations are listed over here. The first one is you can auto-populate values within your subform. For instance, whenever I select an event name, if you'd like to auto-populate the original cost per ticket, that can be achieved using your Deluge scripting language. And this is based on a subform that you have within the application, right? You can perform validation based on the data that is given as an input within your subform. You can hide or show subform actions. Subform actions as in adding a new row or deleting a row that is added. So these are called your subform actions. So you can hide or show these subform actions to the end users of the application. You can also enable or disable the subform fields. So that is possible using Deluge. Followed by, you can insert rows into your subform as well based on the user input of the main form. So for all these automations that are listed over here, we will be providing you with a live demonstration. If at all, if you have any questions on the same, you can always post them in the question tab. So let me take you to a quick live demonstration on these automations. So for my automation, let me just choose the existing subform. Let me remove this blank subform for now. Let me remove this. Great. So this is the subform based on which we are going to bring in our automations, right? So the first automation that we are trying to bring within the application is we are going to auto-populate the cost per ticket, right? So let me show you how that can be done. For automations, let's move on to the workflow tab. Since the automation that I'm trying to bring in is based on, let me refresh, it's based on this subform which I have within a main form called registration form. I'm going to achieve this automation using form workflows. So let's go ahead and create a form workflow. The automation is based on the registration form. The respective record event and the form event is going to be on user input of a field. Let me explain. So whenever the user gives an input to the event name field, that's when I want to auto-populate the cost of the ticket. So let me choose user input of a field, and the field that I'm going to choose for user input is going to be event name, which is a subform field that I have under the subform called preferred events. Let me name the workflow to be auto-populate cost per ticket, and we'll create the workflow. So we are going to create our own custom action using the Deluge scripting language, right? Let me zoom in a bit. So the value that I'm trying to auto-populate is cost per ticket. So where is this value originally stored? In the events form is where I have the cost per event for a ticket is available over here, right? So from here, I'm going to fetch my records using the Deluge scripting language, and we are going to auto-populate the same within the registration form. To fetch the records, I'm going to use a syntax called fetch records, right? So let me create a collection variable to store all the collected records from the event form. So let me name it as fetch event details. So from which form am I going to fetch the cost per ticket? It's from the events form. And here comes an option to give in a criteria or a comparison in order to fetch your records, right? So what is the common field that I have, or what is the relationship that I have between the events form and the registration form? So the relationship is, in the registration form, I do have something called an event name. This is taken as a lookup from the events form, right? So this is the relationship that I have. So the criteria that I'm going to give in is the record ID of the events form is double equal to the record ID of this lookup field, because it's one and the same. We have just fetched the records from here and it is displayed over here in the registration form, right? So that is the comparison that I'm going to give. The record ID of my events form is double equal to the lookup field that I have within the registration form, which is nothing but the event name, right? So if you just type in input dot, all the fields that you have within the registration form will be given to you. So these are the fields that I have, but I would like to access the fields within the subform, right? So to access a field within a subform, then instead of input dot, you will be using the row dot function. So once you type in row dot, all the fields that you have within a subform alone will be given to you, where this is the field that I want to access, right? So I'm just saying both the record IDs are one and the same, so that all the event details will be fetched from the events form and it is stored within the collection variable, right? So now the cost of the ticket is stored over here. Let me auto-populate it. So using the row dot function, let me get cost per ticket. I'm going to assign it with the original cost per ticket value, which is stored within this collection variable. So let me get the cost per ticket and end the statement with the semicolon, right? So the original value is assigned to the field within which I want to auto-populate the value. So now let me save the script and we'll refresh. So whenever an event name is chosen, you can see the respective cost per ticket is getting auto-populated, right? So this is a automation that we have achieved using your Deluge scripting language based on this subform, right? There are other automations that you can bring in as well. For instance, you can bring in validations inside your subform. For instance, if the customer is entering the number of tickets to be 0, this should not be allowed for submission, right? A customer should at least purchase one ticket for a specific event that they have chosen. So let's validate the input that is given to this number of tickets field. Once again, we are going to create a form workflow based on the registration form, and the form event is going to be on user input of number of tickets, right? So let me choose the same, which is number of tickets. Let me name the workflow to be validate number of tickets. So let's create a custom function, custom action. Great. So I would like to validate the number of tickets for each row that is inserted into my subform, right? So for looping into the rows of my subform, I'm going to use a loop function called for each record, right? So for each record within my subform called preferred events, you can see it is tagged to be the subform. So for each rows or records that I have in my preferred events subform, I'm just going to check if the number of tickets is double equal to 0 or not, right? So let me use a if conditional statement to bring in my criteria. Let me get the subform, which is preferred events. From the subform, I'm going to get the number of tickets field, because this is the value that I want to validate, right? So if the number of tickets is double equal to 0, that is if the customer is entering the number of tickets to be 0, I would like to throw an alert, and the alert is going to be at least one ticket needs to be purchased for an event or for the event. If you want to bring in the event name using the concatenation symbol, you can simply bring in your event name as well. So let me just type in input dot, choose the subform. From the subform, let me bring in the event name, right? So here event name is a lookup field that I have, where whenever I call upon this event name, only the record ID will be given to me as an output. So from this record ID, let me get the event, right? Also, what if the customer is entering 0 tickets for multiple events, right? Then multiple event names should be thrown into the alert. So for which I'm going to use the getAll function, so that all the event that has the number of tickets to be 0 will be thrown as an, the event names will be available in the alert, right? So let me save this. Let me just check. Let me save. So we'll refresh. So let's add a specific event. Let me enter the number of tickets to be 0 to check if the validation is working fine or not, right? So here, since the number of tickets is equal to 0, the alert is given to me, followed by the event name, which is Fashion Parade that we have chosen. If the customer, let me refresh. So let's consider a customer is choosing another event. The number of tickets is given to be 0. You can see the respective event name is thrown in the alert as well. So even if multiple events are given the number of tickets to be 0, all the event names will be displayed in your alert message, right? So this is one simple validation that we have achieved using the Deluge scripting language. You can also validate any fields or any input that is given into your subform, right? So not just calculations or validations or automations using your Deluge script, you can also perform simple mathematical calculations based on the input of a field. For instance, we are calculating subtotal over here, right? So whenever the cost per ticket and number of tickets is entered, the subtotal is calculated. So for another event, if I give the number of tickets, if I want to get the grand total, that is the final amount that needs to be paid by the customer, I can simply perform a mathematical calculation based on the subform field that I have over here, which is the subtotal field, right? So let me show you how this can be achieved. Let's move on to the design tab. Let me open the registration form. I'm just going to use a field called the formula field in order to calculate or add all the values within my subform, right? So I'm just going to in order to add all the values within my subform, I should be having the subform link name, right? So before this, let me copy the subform link name. Let me drag and drop. Okay. So from the subform called preferred events, I'm going to find the sum of all the subtotal fields that I have within the subform, right? So using this script, an addition of all the subtotal can be given to you as a grand total value. Let me click on done. The formula field is added. Let me quickly bring in a section to bring in the formula field inside it. Great. So once the formula field is added, I can go ahead and edit the field name, which is grand total. Okay. I can make this field visible in the form as well. Let me just check the expression. Great. So the field is made visible to the form. Now if you refresh the registration form, let's go ahead and add few tickets. The subtotal is 5,000 and you can see it is reflecting in the grand total. If I choose another event, you can see an addition of all the subtotal values is given to you in the grand total field based on the formula field that we just configured in the backend of the application, right? So this is achieved using a formula field where we have simply performed a mathematical calculation based on the input of my subform fields, right? So this is one other automation that you can bring in. Also, you can bring in other automations such as every time I'm inserting a new row, I'm using this add new button, right? So instead of that, whenever an event category is chosen, based on which if you'd like to automatically insert rows into your subform, that can also be achieved using your Deluge scripting language. Let me show you how that can be done. So in order to achieve this, we are going to follow a specific syntax in order to insert rows within your subform, right? So the first step is going to be, we are going to declare a row. That is, we are going to declare into which subform do you want to insert your rows, right? So let's create a workflow based on the same. So let's create a new form workflow. And the form event for the same is going to be on user input of event category. So whenever an event category is chosen, that's when I want to dynamically insert rows into my subform. So let me choose event category. Let me name the workflow. So let's add the custom action using the Deluge scripting language. So the first step is going to be, this is a multi-select field that I have. So I can give multiple inputs into this multi-select field, that is multiple category that can be chosen, right? So I would like to insert rows into my subform whenever a category is given as an input to this event category, right? So I'm going to iterate through each of the categories that is given as an input, for which I'm going to use a looping statement, which is for each record, right? So for each category within my event categories, so for each category that is chosen within this event category field, let me just type in input dot and get the event category, right? So I'm not going to give in any criteria. So for each category that is chosen within this multi-select field, once it is chosen, the first thing that I want to do is I would like to fetch the category details from the events form, because that is where the category details are originally stored, for which I am going to use the fetch record syntax. Let me name the collection variable to be fetch category details, right? So here between the events form and the registration form, the category names are one and the same. So if you just check in the events form, I have categories such as entertainment, art and fashion, right? In the registration form, I have categories such as entertainment, art and fashion. So both the categories are one and the same. So that is the comparison that I'm going to give. The event category that I have in events form is double equal to, so all the event categories that are chosen. So if the customer is choosing entertainment and art, only those categories will be fetched and it will be stored within the collection variable, right? So this is the collection variable that I'm going to give in as a comparison over here, right? So based on this comparison, I would like to get all the record IDs, and to get all the record IDs, I'm going to use this function called getAll, right? So based on the categories that is chosen by the customer, respective records will be collected, the record IDs will be collected and it will be stored within the collection variable, right? So next comes the syntax that we are going to follow in order to declare a row initially, right? So give a name for your row, choose the main form link name followed by the subform link name. Let me name my row to be row 1, which is equal to, So we are going to get the main form link name followed by the subform link name. So my main form link name is registration form. So if you just keep a dot next to it, all the subforms that you have within the main form will be given to you. Since I just have only one, this is given to me as the subform name, right? So I've declared my row now. The next syntax is going to be, once your row is declared, what is the value that you're going to auto-populate within your subform? So whenever a row is added, I would like to auto-populate the event name. So from this row, I'll be calling the event name and I'm going to assign it with a value. Let me explain why we are assigning the value. So for instance, if I'm choosing the category to be entertainment, I have 3 different events in entertainment, right? So 3 different rows will be added and the event name will be automatically populated within my subform rows. So if I'm choosing entertainment, 3 different rows should be added. Also, the respective event name should be auto-populated, such as open mic night or carnival. So these event names should be auto-populated. So that is where we are going to assign value to the specific field. So let me show you how this can be done. So before we assign the value, we are going to use the looping statement once again, because one specific category contains multiple events, right? So for each event that I have within this collection variable, which is fetch category details, let me remove the criteria. So for each event that I have within this collection variable, which is fetch category details, I'm going to assign event name to it. So let me call upon row 1, keep a dot next to it, and this is the event name that I'm going to assign a value to. So where my event names are stored within this collection variable called event. So let me tag it, right? So my field that I want to auto-populate within the subform is assigned with a variable, right? So if you would like to auto-populate other values, such as I can call the respective row that I've declared, I can auto-populate values such as cost per ticket, or if you have any other fields, these values can also be auto-populated, right? So once your variable or once your row is assigned with a value, the next step is you're going to insert this row into your subform, right? So before you directly insert this row into a subform, we are going to create a collection variable, insert all the rows that you have declared, and we are going to insert the collection variable into the subform. So the reason is going to be the data that is stored within a subform is stored in a key value pair, that is your map data type, right? We are just going to insert these rows into a collection variable, which is of a key value pair, and we will be inserting this collection into the subform, right? So let's create an empty collection variable. So if you just type in collection, an empty collection variable can be created. Into this empty collection variable, using the insert function, I am going to insert the one row that I have declared. If you have declared another row, which is row 2 or row 3, just by giving in a comma, you can insert your respective rows as well, right? So I have inserted the single row that I have created. This is the collection variable that I am going to insert within my subform. So let me call my subform, which is preferred events. Using the insert function, let me insert the collection variable that I have created, right? So now let me save the script. So based on the script that we have created, whenever an input is given to the event category, based on which my records will be fetched and my row will be declared, once the rows are inserted, the event names will be auto-populated because I have assigned it with the event name value, right? So let's refresh the live mode of the application. So here, whenever an event category is chosen, you can see for entertainment, the event name, the rows are inserted initially and the event name is populated, such as street play, open mic night and carnival. Followed by, for art, you can see, okay. So for art, you can see the entertainment events are once again added, post which the art events are added, right? Because every time an event category is chosen, based on the looping script that we wrote, entertainment will be executed initially, post which art will be executed after that, right? So in order to resolve this, you can simply write a script called clear my subform link name. So my subform link name is preferred events, right? So once I write the script, let me update it. So whenever an event category is chosen, you can see the respective rows are inserted and event name is auto-populated. If I am going to choose another event category, my entire subform rows will be cleared, and once again the entertainment rows are added and art rows are added, right? So using the clear preferred events, which is nothing but the subform link name, you will be able to automatically clear the rows within your subform, right? So this is how you can dynamically insert rows within your subform. And also, for instance, if I want to remove the events based on art category, so if I just remove art, the respective rows will be deleted. So for fashion and entertainment, the respective rows can be deleted as well, right? So this is another automation that you can bring in within your application. Also, so here you can see subform actions such as add new rows or delete rows. So based on these actions, if you want to bring in automation, we have respective form events for the same. So let's create a new form workflow. So since I have chosen the form to be registration form, also since I have a subform within the registration form, you can see under form events, you can see addition of a row and deletion of a row form events, right? So whenever a new row is inserted into my form, if I want to throw an alert, or whenever a row is deleted from my subform, if I want to throw an alert. So based on these subform actions, if you want to bring your automation, you can make use of these form events given to you, right? So apart from this, you can also hide your subform actions. So you can hide this add new button, or you can hide this delete button as well. So let me show you how that can be configured. So the automation is going to be based on the registration form, where the form event that I'm going to choose is field rules. So let me name the workflow to be hide subform actions. So let's create the workflow. So here you're provided with an option to hide the fields, hide or show the fields that you have within your main form, that is your registration form. You can enable or disable fields that you have within your main form. If you would like to show or hide subform actions, you have the option over here, right? So here always I would like to hide the subform add entry option. So this is the button that I'm trying to hide, right? Or if you'd like to hide the delete rows option, you have the configurations over here, right? So let me hide the subform entry in my preferred event subform. Click on save. So now you can see the add new button is removed. Only when I choose a category, the rows will be inserted and the respective configurations can be achieved, right? Yeah. So this is how you can create your workflows. If at all, if you would like to disable any workflows that you have created. For instance, if you want your subform actions once again, which is add new entry, you can simply disable it as well from the option that is given to you, right? So starting with a simple mathematical calculation, we have performed validations, so inserting rows into your subform. So multiple automations are brought within your Creator application based on a single subform that we added, right? So now let's quickly create a record into the subform. So let this be Jennifer R, an email, a phone number, an event category, for instance. So the cost per ticket can also be auto-populated. We just saw how that can be done. Let this be 3,000, 1,000. So let the number of tickets. So based on the subtotal, the grand total is also calculated. The customer can go ahead and submit a record, right? So once a report is submitted or once a form is submitted, you can view the details as a report over here where you can see that customer details, the event category and the grand total. But the subform details are not visible in the live mode of the report, right? So in order to configure the same, let's move on to the design tab where let's move on to the registration form report. Here you have an option called configure fields for web, right? So here currently just the customer name, email and phone number followed by the event category and grand total is displayed. So if you want to bring in the details that you have entered within the preferred events in your report, click on add fields, select your subform, and now in the report your subform details are added as well. However, you can just view the event name. If you want to view other details such as here you're provided with the event name, right? So if you also want to view the cost per ticket or the number of tickets, the subtotals, if you want to view all these fields within your subform, you can choose the add field option, right? Also, since we are going to display several details within a single field called the subform field, if you want to bring in a delimiter, so you have the default delimiters to be space or a comma, you can also bring in a custom delimiter. Let me show you how this looks like in the live mode. So now you can see the event name, the cost per ticket, the required number of tickets and the subtotal, right? So all the details are viewed over here. Since this is a existing form, the data that is stored within the existing form is available in the parent form and also it is available in the child form, right? So these are few previous records that we added. However, let me just check. So craft stalls and art exhibition with a subtotal of 6,000 and 1,000 is available as a record over here. So craft stalls and craft exhibition with a subtotal of 6,000 and 1,000 is added as a record, right? So in both parent and child forms, your data that is stored within an existing subform can be viewed, right? So this is about subforms. Based on the subform that you have created within your application, you can create combined reports on the same. Let me show you. So any report that is generated within your application will have two different types of view. This is your quick view, and if you just click onto it, this is the detail view, right? In the detail view, currently only the customer details are provided. So if you would like to view the events that the customers has registered for, who's the in charge person for the event. So if you'd like to view all the details stored in other forms in a single report, you can create combined reports based on your relationship. Let me show you how combined reports can be created. So I've chosen the registration form report. Let's move on to the detail view, where this is the option that I'm going to use in order to create my combined reports, right? So in the detail view, currently only the customer details are provided. So if I want to add a new block, I can simply click on add block. So all the fields that I have within the registration form, that is my main form, will be given to me. So I can simply rename it. Let me name it as, for instance, final amount to be paid by the customer. So here I'm just going to have the grand total field. Let me delete these fields. Right. So the customer details and the final amount that should be paid by the customer. I've just created two different blocks using this add block. What is this add related block? So this is the option that is going to help you to create combined reports. So once you select this, all the relationship that you have created within your application. So preferred events is taken as a subform into the registration form, right? So that is a relationship that you have built. So based on this relationship, you can create blocks which will be reflected as combined reports in the live mode of the application. So let me keep the name as preferred events, or let this be event details or registration details. You can name accordingly, where I'm going to have the event name, cost per ticket, number of tickets, and the subtotal value, right? So if you'd like to include any other details such as the in charge person or any other details based on the relationship, you can go ahead and choose the same, right? You can also rearrange them. So post the customer details, I have the event details and the final amount to be paid. So let me refresh. So this is the quick view. If I move on to the detail view, for this specific customer, I can see the customer details, the event details, who's the in-charge person for a specific event. So in-charge person details are originally stored in my event form, right? So I can view the details over here, and the final amount that needs to be paid by the customer is created as a combined report, right? So these are the features that are related to a subform within Zoho Creator and how you can build a parent-child relationship. So using the script, we inserted the subform. So next we have a developer tool called Schema Builder. So this is nothing but a tool that is used to view the relationship that you have built within your application. So if you'd like to, for instance, let's consider you have several forms within your Creator application, right? So if you have built a one-to-one relationship using your lookup field, or if you have built a parent-child relationship using your subform, all the relationships can be viewed in a single page using this developer tool called Schema Builder, right? Let me show you where you can find the Schema Builder. So in your settings, under developer tools, you have the option called Schema Builder. Once you click onto it, this is how the builder page looks like, where all the forms that you have within your application will be given to you as a schematic diagram, and also the relationship that you have established between the forms, whether it is a parent-child relationship or whether it is a lookup that you have created. All this will be given to you as a schema diagram, right? So let me choose the Schema Builder. So currently I have 3 different forms within my application, which is event management application. So if I just hover upon registration form, it has a link between the preferred events, right? So if I just select this, you can see that preferred events is taken as a subform into the registration form, right? I can hover upon any forms. So all the relationship that I have. So event and preferred events has a relationship based on the lookup field, right? So all my relationships can be viewed over here. So this Schema Builder will be useful in scenarios where you have built an application which consists of multiple forms and multiple relationships. So you can have a bird's eye view of the different relationships that you have built, right? So with this, we have come to an end of this webinar. As a summary of all the topics that we discussed, we started off with an introduction to what are subforms in Zoho Creator, post which we understood the different types of subform that we have, which is your blank and existing form, followed by which we learned about how you can bring in the subform into your Creator application. We also learned about how you can use the Deluge scripting language in order to customize your subform and also to bring in automation based on your subform as well. For all this, we had a live demonstration on the same, and we also learned about the developer tool called Schema Builder to view your relationships. Right? In the meantime, I would like to promote few upcoming sessions. So the same Zoho Creator Tech Connect series for the month of July is scheduled on July 10th, and the session timing will be from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. as per Indian Standard Time. And the topic is going to be what are all the new features or release updates that we have within the Creator platform. So we will be showcasing the different new features that are released, and a live demo for the same will be given to you, right? Post which we have another free webinar that is upcoming, which is Learning Table series. So Learning Table series is also a month-on-month free webinar where for each month we will be selecting a specific industry and we will be showcasing how Creator can be efficiently used in order to bring in automation inside the industry. So for the month of July, the industry that we have chosen is Zoho Creator for the logistics industry, right? And the session date is on July 3rd from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So if any of your friends or colleagues are interested in attending this webinar, which is a free webinar, you can scan this QR code and register yourself, and also the registration link will be shared in the chat section by my co-trainer. You can share the registration link with your friends and colleagues as well. So if you have any further queries regarding the webinar or the training, you can always write to training@zohocreator.com. We thank you all for your active participation, and we'll be winding up this webinar as of now. Thank you.